A mother's heart, unveiling the unforeseen. Elara had always envisioned motherhood as a transformative journey, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared her for the seismic shift that occurred in that delivery room. At 34, with her devoted husband, Ben, by her side, clutching her hand through every contraction, she welcomed twin girls into the world. Their nursery, a serene pastel green, was ready. Elara had meticulously chosen matching teddy bears, tiny monogrammed onesies, and miniature white booties, picturing her daughters in them on their triumphant return home. But when the first cries pierced the air, a hushed silence fell over the room. And as the second baby arrived, that silence sharpened, cutting through the air like a knife. Two exquisite baby girls emerged, soft, rich brown skin, cascades of curly black hair, 10 perfect fingers and toes on each. Elara, utterly spent but overflowing with a profound mix of awe and adrenaline, looked at them and a radiant smile spread across her face. "They're absolutely perfect," she whispered, her heart soaring. But Ben remained utterly still, his gaze fixed, unblinking. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he retreated from the bedside. Elara, confused, reached for him, but he deftly avoided her touch. Without a single word, he turned and walked out of the room. She wouldn't see him again. The next morning, a stark manila envelope landed in Elara's trembling hand. Inside, divorce papers. No note. No explanation. Just an icy, echoing silence. Whispers began to circulate almost immediately. Nurses avoided her gaze, friends stopped returning calls, and even her parents, their voices tight with unspoken questions, pressed her. "Elara," her mother's voice crackled over the phone, "is there anything you need to tell us?" But Elara stood firm. She knew her truth. She hadn't cheated. She hadn't lied. She hadn't done anything wrong. And these two tiny, perfect lives nestled against her, they were hers. That was all that truly mattered. She named them Kira and Naya, and she would raise them alone. Elara traded the quiet suburbs for a modest two-bedroom apartment in a vibrant, working-class neighborhood where questions were rare and acceptance was abundant. She secured a job at a bustling community center and picked up freelance accounting work in the evenings. The engagement ring was sold, replaced by a reliable used car. Every ounce of her being, every spare penny, was poured into her daughters. Kira was the quieter soul, thoughtful, observant, with a deep love for intricate puzzles and cozy winter sweaters. She'd curl up with books far beyond her age, absorbing every word in peaceful solitude. Naya, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy, bold, bubbly, and brimming with questions. Her pajamas were always adorned with stars, and she'd dance through the living room, mismatched socks and a wide, infectious grin her constant companions. Elara made a silent vow early on, she would never hide anything from them. When the girls began to inquire about their differences, she answered with gentle honesty. She spoke of melanin, of the beautiful intricacies of genetics, and most importantly, of love. She taught them that skin color did not define their worth, and that families were forged not by biology, but by unbreakable bonds of the heart. Still, some nights, Elara would lie awake, a persistent question lingering, where did those rich brown eyes come from? That luminous skin? Those perfectly coiled curls? She even tried an online DNA test once, hoping for a definitive answer. The results offered a glimpse into mixed ancestry and distant unknowns, but no close relatives, no magic solution. So, Elara did what mothers do. She moved forward. She cheered at school plays, meticulously braided hair before bedtime, and stayed up late sewing elaborate costumes for book day. And every year, on Kira and Naya's birthday, she would recount the story of the day they were born, a story of profound love that irrevocably changed her life. She never remarried, never felt the need to explain herself. She didn't have to, until one ordinary Saturday morning, 10 years after that extraordinary birth, Elara descended the stairs to a sight that stopped her cold, Kira and Naya, perched on the couch, each cradling a newborn baby. Elara froze. Kira, in her cream turtleneck, held her infant with an astonishing ease, as if she'd done it 1,000 times before. Naya, dressed in her red, white, and blue star pajamas, beamed down at the tiny bundle in her lap. 2 babies. Both newborns. Both undeniably white. Elara's voice caught in her throat. Girls, what is this? The twins looked up, their expressions calm. We didn't know what else to do, Kira said quietly. She gave them to us, Naya added. She said you'd know what to do. Elara's legs gave way, and she sank onto the floor, her heart hammering against her ribs, her breath shallow. Who gave them to you? Kira reached into her pocket and handed Elara a folded piece of paper. As Elara unfolded it, her eyes fell upon a name she hadn't heard in years, written in shaky, almost desperate handwriting. And as she read the very first line, her eyes welled with tears, because the past she had so carefully buried was clearly not done with her yet. Elara's hands trembled, holding the letter as if it were a fragile bird. Her eyes scanned every word, twice, 3 times, desperate to ensure she wasn't hallucinating. The signature, Leah, jolted her. A name she hadn't spoken aloud in what felt like an eternity. Leah, the sweet, shy biracial girl Elara had fostered when Kira and Naya were just infants. Leah had been only 7 at the time, placed in Elara's care for 6 brief, unforgettable months. Elara remembered every detail, the way Leah always needed a nightlight, the quiet, almost timid way she'd asked to call her Mama Elara when no one else was around. Elara had wanted to adopt her, had fought for it with every fiber of her being. But one fateful court date had shattered that dream. A distant aunt had surfaced, asserting her legal rights, and Leah was taken. Elara had watched from her front porch as the little girl was buckled into the back seat of a stranger's car, her small face pressed against the window, tears silently streaming down. Now, 10 years later, Leah had returned, through a letter, and with 2 newborns. Kira and Naya were still on the couch, cradling the babies with a remarkable, almost unsettling, composure. Elara looked up, still reeling. Where did you see her? She was outside the library, Kira explained softly. She looked scared, like she hadn't slept. She said we reminded her of someone. Naya chimed in, she asked if you were our mom. Then she just handed us the babies. Elara covered her mouth, overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions. Did she say anything else? She cried a little, Kira murmured. She said, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I remembered. Elara lowered herself to the floor, sitting directly in front of them. She reached out, gently touching one of the baby's tiny fingers. It curled instinctively around hers. The infant stirred, blinked once, then settled back into a peaceful slumber. Later that day, Elara called Child Protective Services. Her voice wavered with emotion but never broke as she explained everything, the letter, the girls, the forgotten history. An emergency custody case was opened. The twins, Leo and Lily, as Leah had named them, were placed under Elara's temporary care while the agency began the painstaking search for their birth mother. A caseworker visited the house. She arrived expecting chaos, but instead found a quiet, almost miraculous, joy. Kira and Naya helped warm bottles, changed diapers with remarkably gentle hands, and swaddled the infants as if they'd been born to do it. You're a natural, the caseworker remarked to Elara. Elara smiled, her eyes tired but bright. This isn't my first time. In the weeks that followed, Elara re-embraced routines she thought she'd long forgotten, midnight feedings, early morning lullabies, diaper explosions, and the sweet gurgling laughter of infants. But it wasn't just about the babies. It was about the profound meaning of that letter. Leah had remembered. For years, Elara had carried a quiet ache, worrying that she had failed that child, that she had been too soft, not loud enough, not legally powerful enough to protect her. But Leah had carried Elara in her memory, and when her life reached its breaking point, she hadn't run to a shelter. She came home. It was a rainy Thursday morning when the knock finally came. Elara was rinsing bottles at the sink when she heard it. She paused, dried her hands, opened the door, and there she was. Leah. Soaked from the storm, thin, utterly exhausted, but unmistakably her. Leah looked up, her voice a raw whisper. "I didn't know if you'd hate me." Elara didn't utter a single word. Instead, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Leah, holding her tightly. Leah sobbed into her shoulder, a heartbroken child once more. They stood there for minutes, unmoving, the rain a silent witness. Inside, Kira and Naya peered from the living room, their eyes wide. One of the babies stirred. Leah stepped inside, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and overwhelming emotion. She walked to the couch and knelt beside the newborns. "I didn't know what to do," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I wanted to do right by them, but I didn't think I could." Elara gently touched her shoulder. "You did the bravest thing you could do. You brought them to someone who would love them." Leah looked up, tears streaming down her face. Can I stay?" Elara's voice was unwavering, resolute. "You never left." In the weeks that followed, Leah found solace and a safe haven in the guest room. She began therapy, met with a social worker, and slowly started to piece together the shattered fragments of her life. Elara didn't pressure her. She simply listened, offered support, and loved unconditionally. One quiet evening, as they folded laundry together, Leah turned to Elara, her voice soft. "I used to dream about your house. Not the furniture, just the feeling. I never forgot it." Elara squeezed her hand gently. "Neither did I." Eventually, the caseworker offered Elara legal guardianship of the babies. Leah expressed a desire to share custody, but she humbly asked if Elara could be their primary guardian until she found her footing. Elara agreed without a moment's hesitation. And on the day the paperwork was signed, Elara looked around the small, bustling living room. Her two beautiful black daughters, Kira and Naya, sat shoulder to shoulder, engrossed in reading bedtime stories to each other. Leah, now 17, skillfully burped one baby, humming a soft lullaby. Elara held the other infant close to her chest, a profound sense of peace settling over her. 10 years ago, they had called her a liar. Now, she was the one raising 4 children, 2 by birth, 2 by heart, and being called something else entirely. Mom. And this time, no one questioned it. The early days with Leo and Lily were a beautiful, chaotic whirlwind, a familiar dance Elara hadn't realized her heart missed so deeply. Kira and Naya, already mini-mothers in their own right, reveled in their new roles as big sisters. Their quiet apartment, once echoing with just 3 sets of footsteps, now hummed with the constant, comforting symphony of infant gurgles, coos, and the gentle patter of tiny feet. Leah, meanwhile, was slowly, painstakingly, finding her equilibrium. She continued therapy, each session a new step on her long road to healing. Elara watched, her heart swelling with pride, as Leah began to shed the fear that had clung to her like a shadow. She started helping more around the house, her movements growing more confident, her laughter more genuine. One afternoon, Elara found Leah humming softly to Leo, rocking him gently while tracing the tiny whorls of his ear. It was a simple moment, but to Elara, it spoke volumes of the maternal instinct that had always been there, just waiting for a safe space to bloom. The Child Protective Services case moved slowly, methodically. The agency's search for Leo and Lily's father yielded no immediate results. Leah, in her sessions, slowly revealed more of her story, a transient existence after leaving Elara's care, a desperate search for stability that led her down paths she regretted, and a relationship that, while brief, resulted in the 2 babies she had so bravely entrusted to Elara. She spoke of her fear, her feeling of being utterly overwhelmed, and the powerful, almost instinctual pull to bring her children to the one place she knew would be safe. "I remembered how you always said family was about love, not just blood," Leah confided one evening, her eyes meeting Elara's across the kitchen table. "And I knew you loved me, even when I was little." Life settled into a new, harmonious rhythm. Weekends were a blur of park visits, library story times, and the occasional chaotic, joyous trip to a child-friendly cafe. Kira and Naya, ever the studious and vivacious duo, excelled in school, their report cards a testament to their resilience and bright minds. They were fiercely protective of Leo and Lily, explaining to curious classmates that they were their bonus siblings, and shutting down any questions about race or family structure with the simple declaration, "We're a family, that's all that matters." Leah, now 18, decided to enroll in a local GED program, her determination shining through. She spent her evenings poring over textbooks, often with Elara or Kira helping her understand complex concepts. The dream of becoming a nurse, a quiet aspiration she'd held since her days in Elara's foster care, began to take shape. She started volunteering at the community center where Elara worked, offering an extra pair of hands with the after-school programs, her gentle nature a balm to the children there. One sunny afternoon, a few months after Leah's return, the caseworker called. The search for Leo and Lily's father had hit a dead end, and after careful consideration of Leah's progress and Elara's stable, loving home, the agency was recommending that Elara officially adopt Leo and Lily. Leah, after a tearful but resolute conversation with Elara, agreed wholeheartedly. "They deserve a stable home, Mama Elara," she said, using the childhood nickname that still brought a lump to Elara's throat. "And you're the best mom they could ever have. I'll always be their birth mom, but you're their mama." Unbreakable bonds. The adoption process was smoother than Elara anticipated, a stark contrast to the difficult battle she'd faced years ago with Leah. There were no raised eyebrows, no whispers. Instead, there was an outpouring of support from the community that had embraced her and her unique family. On the day the adoption was finalized, a small celebration was held in their living room. Kira and Naya, beaming, presented Leo and Lily with matching, official siblings, t-shirts they'd designed themselves. Leah, her eyes shining with tears of joy and relief, held Lily close, a future she hadn't dared to dream of finally within her grasp. Elara looked around at her bustling, beautiful family, Kira and Naya, two radiant young women embodying strength and grace, Leah, blossoming into a responsible, hopeful young woman, still finding her way but undeniably on the right path, and little Leo and Lily, thriving and cherished, their laughter the newest melody in their home. It had been a long, unpredictable journey, marked by heartbreak and unexpected blessings. But standing there, surrounded by the tangible evidence of unconditional love, Elara knew one thing with absolute certainty: her family, forged not by conventional rules but by an unbreakable bond of heart and spirit, was perfect in every way. The world might have once questioned her, but in the warmth of her home, filled with love that knew no boundaries, she was simply and profoundly, Mom.